Hello, everyone. I'm going to be starting a new series of videos. And as you can see by the topic, it's going to be about fertilizers. And I'm going to have quite a few episodes of this topic. And these are these are the broader subjects that I'll be talking about. I'm going to start out with CEC and to get a better understanding of what that is, as well as base saturation. I'm going to cover these two first because I feel that's the most important. It gives you a better understanding of what you are doing when you do the rest, when you feed your plants. So then we're going to have a few episodes about macronutrients. We'll cover the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium, as well as calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. And then once we cover all that, we'll move on to the micronutrients, which there's quite a few, so it's not all up here. But we'll cover that. We'll learn what they also do for our plants. And then this last topic right here, the nutrient interactions, I may or may not have a separate episode on that, or I may integrate it with each topic that I talked with the macros and the micronutrients. So hopefully, by the time we get done with all this, we will be very fertilizer savvy and have a much better understanding of what we're doing when we fertilize out there. And hopefully this help both me and you to stay clear of the temptation to maybe over fertilize our plants because the interactions what they have, and then also have a better understanding of what our particular soil can handle and what it needs to achieve a balance. And that's what the first two episodes will cover. So now we're going to dive in right away in this episode on CEC and what this is and what this will do for us in our patch. CEC. What is it? Should that be important to us pumpkin growers? Oh yeah, it is very important. And I've gone all these years not knowing what that was or what to do about it. And I said, no more. I am going to know what you mean. And now I would like to share what I learned and my understanding of what it is to you guys. And one thing I learned is that coming up with what's your CEC, this boils down to sand and clay, and how much sand to clay or clay to sand you have. And I felt that it was important to draw it out because particle size matters. So you can clearly see that sand is much bigger than the clay. And if you take a jar of just clay's over here, and sand, and then magnify it up, you will further see what the importance of the two are. So we need a prop, right? Yes, we do. And that's what I got right here. So, as you can see, they're about equally filled. here we have sand, and over here we have the clay particles. And as you can see, you can fit a lot more clay into this jar than you can sand. So, who cares? Why is that important? There's two reasons why that's important. One, you can clearly see of all the air spaces and empty voids there is in the sand, and how more tightly packed the clay is. So let's dive deeper into that and see why that's important. There are two things that are important with understanding the CEC. And one of them that you can see right here, nutritious chemicals. And the other is water and how much your soil can hold. And going back to this prop here of both the sand and the clay, and as I was just saying, how many open areas, how many voids there is in the sand compared to how tightly packed clay is. Clay clearly is going to hold a lot more water and be able to retain that water than the sand. Sand, the water is just going to basically go right through. Not that fast, but pretty fast. So that also plays a role in the nutrients or the fertilizers we put into our soil and how much our soil can hold onto that at one time. So let's move the props out of the way, because as handy as they are, we don't quite need them right now. And now we're gonna focus on the nutritious chemicals, because that plays the biggest role in understanding CEC. So now, as their face expression suggests, these are positive guys and gals. So you will have, like this guy, he'll have a positive ion here. This one might have 2, because he's a little happier than him. But this guy's pretty happy. He has 3 positive ions. So then when you come over to our soil, particularly the sand and clay, they're not very happy. They're a little negative. And sand is a little more negative than the clay because it's bigger. So he has negative ions all over him. And the clay, it only has a few. And as we all know, opposites do attract. And this, now we're diving deeper into what the scary CEC is. See, I told you we were going to go deeper into this whole CEC. We are now underground. We got one little root with its little hairs, and in 3 spots we have zoomed in with our power zoomer. So now we're going to just break down each letter of the CEC. As you can see, it's the Cation Exchange Capacity. Now the cation which I can't promise you I'm pronouncing it correctly, but that's how it's spelled, we've discussed already, or we started to, and that's these little happy guys, these nutritious little chemicals. So this is floating around in your soil, rather from us fertilizing or adding soil amendments, or just through organic matter. But they're in there. And they're, like I said, they're positive little guys. And that's good. Because if they weren't positive and our soil wasn't negative, these guys would just be floating around in our soil. We water or it rains and that washes away and never gets to our plant. And that's no good. So now that they are, because they are positively charged nutrients here and negatively charged soil, they will basically attract to each other. So all these happy little nutrients are clinging onto each sand and clay particle. So, where am I going with that? I hope I'm going somewhere. So, in order for our plant roots to be able to eat, it needs to be able to take the nutrients that we put in there and get it up into the plant. So how it does that is with our second word here, or letter E, which is exchange. There has to be an exchange between the soil, both particles, and the roots, because there has to remain a balance. So we have all the happy little nutrients locked up on each sand and clay particle, and we need to give the soil something to keep them happy, to keep a balance there. So what does this plant give the soil? Well, if we zoom in right here, you can see this little happy guy. And this little guy is called Mr. Hydrogen. And he has one positive ion here. So, if he wants, let's say, this guy, no problem. He gives up his hydrogen, goes to the soil. The soil's happy with that, so he gives us this nutrient. Now the plant's happy, and the plant's getting what it needs from that nutrient. If we dive a little deeper, some nutrients are happier than others. So this guy in particular, well, let's just jump right to here, because otherwise it gets a little repetitive. So we'll jump to this very happy guy. He has 3 positive ions. The plant only has basically a dollar bill. It only has 1 positive ion. But he costs $3. So this hydrogen molecule has to come up with $2 more. So he calls 2 more of his buddies, which I won't draw here because they all look like that. So now the plant has to give up 3 hydrogens for 1 nutrient here. Now that's getting a little deep. Not something we really have to worry about, but it's kind of interesting to know that constantly has to be an exchange going on, and it has to be fair. It has to be equal. So if it wants more of the complex nutrients, it has to give up a little bit more. So, okay. That's it. That's as deep as we're going to go with this whole, I guess, chemistry part of it. Because this is basically all you need to know is that the plant gives up hydrogen, or however many hydrogen molecules that the soil needs to be able to give up one of the happy, nutritious chemicals to make each other happy. So next, we're gonna tackle capacity. And I kind of feel this pertains to us as pumpkin growers more than any what this is. This is more sciencey, more chemistry. I mean, it's fun to learn if you get into that sort of thing, but this is what's gonna affect us and what we do in our pumpkin patch. Let's dive a little deeper into capacity, because I feel when we get out into our pumpkin patches, knowing how much water and nutrients we can give at one time is pretty important, because you don't want to overwater or overfeed your pumpkins, because you can do a lot more harm than good. And because props really help paint a clearer picture, I have these two containers of water. This one here represents a CEC of 5, and this one, as you can guess, represents a CEC of 20. So this is what CEC for us in the patch means to us. So when we look at our soil test and we see we have a CEC of 5, we can't go out there and give them this much water and fertilizer at one time, because this is all it can hold. You can't fit this at one time in here, but you can feed and water your plants each day a quarter of what this is over the next 4 days, and still get the same nutrients as somebody who has a CEC of 20. And kind of the opposite of that, if a person who has a CEC of 20, if they just fed this every 4 days, they're going to starve their plants. So they rather, one, also have to do the trickle feed, or they can give this much water and fertilizer every 4 days, because their soil can hold it. And that, in a nutshell, is what CEC really means to us when we are taking care of our plants. This might be a little oversimplifying it, but I feel it doesn't have to be that complicated. And it always seemed like a complicated section on your soil test, because you look at it, CEC of 5, okay, that's cool. But now we know that, oh, I have a CEC of 5. I know that I can't feed my plants at each feeding this much, because my soil can't handle it. It can only handle this much at one time, and I have to feed and water my plants multiple times throughout the week compared to if I had a CEC of 20 that can hold this much. So there you have it, guys. This is what I've learned about CEC, and I hope this really helps you guys out, because this now really helps. This helps me. I now, when I look at my soil test, I have a better understanding of what I can do to my soil. I mean, to feed my plants, and only give it what it can hold. So that'll be it for this week. Next week, I'm going to cover base saturation. And that kind of goes hand in hand with CEC, and that's also something that you see on your soil test that is confusing, that I have had no idea what that meant either. So I will cover that next week. So until next time, guys, I will see you later. Bye-bye.